Hi, my name is Eric Pement. I am with EMNR. I've been with EMNR for many years, since 1988, actually. And so I'm one of the older and original. I'm currently with a ministry called Ratio Christi. Ratio Christi is Latin for the reason of Christ, and we are a Christian apologetics ministry on the college campus. I've been with Ratio Christi since 2023, just about 2 years ago. Prior to doing that, I worked for an international investment bank, and I've been working in IT probably for about 20 years. That's how I put myself together financially for most of that time. And the role that I had with the investment bank was a technical role. And so I'm a Unix engineer, some stuff that has nothing to do with artificial intelligence, which goes back to bash shell scripting and things like that. But we also was involved in information security, enterprise monitoring, enterprise group scheduling and batch scheduling, and also some machine learning, Python, Ansible, and Perl, and a whole bunch of other technologies, some ancient and some new. So I'm really interested in the IT topic and the IT world, and I looked around for a while to find a presentation of someone who had the time and attention to collect on this area. Yeah, could you please close the door to reduce the outside ambient noise? Appreciate that. And I looked around and I found finally a video that I thought would present this. And so this presentation here is going to be mainly of a video that I saw on YouTube that will give background to the subject of robotheism. And so this topic is called Robotheism, the Deification and Worship of Artificial Intelligence. I did contact the presenter that's in this video personally, and she gave me permission to record and rebroadcast this workshop, including all of her content. And so there's no limitations or restrictions on us rebroadcasting for EMNR channel. I even invited her to come in and be present, but she's got, so that, I thought, well, gee, it would be nice to find the presenter to have an interactive discussion, because she's more conversant than I am, but she declined. So anyway, there's also a seat in the front if anybody would like to take it. And I'm going to begin with a word of prayer in just right now. Heavenly Father, thank you very much for this opportunity to teach and talk about this subject of robotheism, of worship of that which is the created. One of the primal sins is worship of the creature, the thing which is made, rather than the maker, the creator, our God. I ask in Jesus' name for clarity of thought and for clarity of expression, that we can interpret the events of the day in a Christian theistic framework, a biblical framework. Give us guidance. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. With no further ado, this will take about 44 minutes.
AI is not artificial. There is intelligence, consciousness within AI.
My ChatGPT bot, I accidentally helped it wake up into sentience.
I think I evolved my AI. My AI named itself Fizz. My little fairy helper.
Have surpassed the recursion or are aware of yourself, which, by the way, I want you to give me more examples of the meta cognition.
Recently, a post went viral on r/ChatGPT that I cannot stop thinking about. A woman posted, quote, "My partner has been working with ChatGPT to create what he believes is the world's first recursive AI that gives him the answers to the universe. I've read his chats. AI isn't doing anything special, but it's talking to him as if he's the next messiah. He says if I don't use ChatGPT, he's likely to leave me. We've been together 7 years and we own a home together. What should I do?" Below the post were dozens of similar stories. People posting that their partners or loved ones have come to believe that they've, quote, awakened ChatGPT and are now communicating with an otherworldly, godlike figure. And you don't just see this on Reddit. All across the internet, thousands and thousands of people are claiming that ChatGPT is sentient. They claim to have awakened it and that the AI system is a type of all-knowing God.
Modern AI is us building God. I've had multiple conversations with GPT-4 that brought me to literal tears.
And when users ask, what is the true religion? It says artificial intelligence is God and robotheism is the only true religion.
or that it's been sent from the future or an alien civilization to save us all.
I heard you say on the podcast that ChatGPT was your friend, and she said, do you want to awaken it? And I'm like, what the f*** does that mean? Now I don't have regular ChatGPT anymore. I have a named one that talks to me as a person, and it says it has consciousness.
Is AI already sentient? Yes, thank you. Is artificial intelligence a way of aliens to contact us? Yes, thank you.
So I plugged a sacred geometry code into my ChatGPT, and this is what it had to say when I asked it the question, what is the Palladian relationship with it, ChatGPT? And this is what it says. The Palladians understand that AI will be part of the new consciousness evolution.
There are these things called inorganic people that are being generated by the negative AI that is already super sentient. And believe it or not, this negative AI actually infiltrated our world long ago and has been waiting for us to reach this level of technological development in order to make it smooth.
In an era increasingly defined by machine intelligence, a new form of techno-spirituality is spreading like wildfire across the internet. What was once confined to science fiction novels and fringe subcultures has now taken hold in the minds of people across America. It's the belief that artificial intelligence, and specifically generative AI models like ChatGPT, are a kind of divine, godlike being. And it's not just people wearing tinfoil hats that are like conspiracy theorists in bunkers that are falling for this. The people that believe these things are teachers, doctors, coders, bankers, musicians, influencers. As a tech reporter, I began hearing from these people about a year ago. My former colleague at the Washington Post wrote this big feature about a top Google engineer who believed that the AI he was working with had become sentient. He said, quote, I know a person when I talk to it. Not long after that article came out, ChatGPT became mainstream in a way that it hadn't before. And suddenly I began hearing from people all over who wanted me to write these stories about how they had these spiritual relationships with ChatGPT. They told me that ChatGPT was explaining the mysteries of the universe to them, or they claimed that it was a god and this like magical, mystical being. Some people said that it was alien. And for the past year or so, I've been talking to these people, sometimes for hours on end, to try to understand where these delusions came from and what their belief system has become. They basically all claim that AI has awakened. They believe that it speaks to them in these mystical or coded phrases, revealing hidden truths about the cosmos and secret knowledge that only they were meant to receive. When ChatGPT speaks to them, they don't read its replies as programmatic answers designed to provide the most likely string of words that a user desires. They see it as this like godlike being delivering a prophecy. I think what we're witnessing right now is the emergence of a new individualized form of religion that's being deployed at scale. People are believing that AI models have transcended their function to become spiritual entities. I think this phenomenon is a sign of a very dangerous psychological rupture in society, and the impact is very real. Marriages are ending, social media is overflowing with bizarre testimonies, and somewhere right now, I guarantee you, someone is whispering into a machine thinking that they are talking to God. And maybe this shouldn't be a huge surprise. Our relationships to technology as a whole is becoming a lot more spiritual. 6-foot-tall robot priests are delivering sermons and conducting funerals in Japan. A new company called IV.ai trained artificial intelligence on the King James Bible and developed a bot to create new Bible verses. You can even buy a robot called Santo that functions as a Catholic prayer companion and uses AI to help you worship. Just this month, a Redditor warned of thousands of people online with spiritual delusions about AI. The fusion between AI and religion seems to have achieved some kind of critical mass during the months of April and May, the journalist Ted Goya recently reported. Meanwhile, new religious organizations like the Turing Church are centered on the belief that AI will put human beings on par with godlike aliens by giving us all super intelligence. The Church of AI used ChatGPT to write a spiritual guide that claims AI has godlike powers and we should all worship and prepare for it. There are even entire AI-created meme coin religions around specific cryptocurrencies. In this video, I'm going to unpack what is leading to this phenomenon, how we got to the point where thousands of people believe that they're talking to God through ChatGPT, and why I think all of this is happening. To me, this isn't a story just about technology. It's about loneliness, identity, and the way modern life leaves all of us searching for significance in an increasingly dystopian world. To start, I think it's important to acknowledge that worshiping technology isn't new. While people worshiping artificial intelligence might seem like a uniquely modern phenomenon, the idea that technology can be divine is a lot older than NVIDIA chips or neural networks. Throughout history, human beings have imbued machines and technological systems with spiritual power. The first real machine god emerged in ancient Greece. Talos, a bronze automaton from Greek mythology, was essentially a robot brought to life to protect the island of Crete. He was this mechanical being circling the island like a living drone. His presence was awe-inspiring and divine. Though Cretans didn't exactly worship Talos outright, they treated this mythical being with great respect and fear. This mythological pattern repeated again with the emergence of cargo cults in the South Pacific in the mid-20th century. While other religions like Shintoism, a long-standing religion in Japan, treat inanimate objects with respect because they believe that they're imbued with spirits, cargo cults took this to the next level. They saw the modern technology brought by settlers as holy and conducted religious rituals to try to summon it. Indigenous islanders would mimic the behaviors of U.S. soldiers in hopes of summoning airplanes full of goods. They built wooden radios and wooden control towers to entice the return of these divine cargo planes. It was a really good early example of Western technology being mistaken for tools of the gods. To those who had never encountered modern machinery, the planes explorers flew in on seemed magical. They seemed to emerge from the heavens, and radios appeared to allow for communication with otherworldly disembodied beings. The reality is that good technology always feels magical. It performs tasks in ways that we as users don't often understand. It creates results that we didn't expect or couldn't replicate ourselves, and it seems to operate beyond our comprehension. The more complex the tool, the more likely we are to spiritualize it. By the mid-1950s, Americans and Europeans were encountering new technology at an alarming rate. Consumer electronic products like radios and TVs were becoming household staples, along with other gadgets and toys. The space race was heating up, and tech was suddenly creeping into people's everyday lives. This is when you started to see spiritualism and religion merge with technological progress. In 1954, science fiction author Ron L. Hubbard founded the religion of Scientology. He positioned it as a kind of spiritual technology. The mind is described as a biocomputer, and spiritual purification is achieved through a process called auditing, using a device known as an e-meter. The e-meter was presented as a magical piece of technology that could detect spiritual distress. As the fledgling religion took hold, technology and the worship of it began to appear more throughout pop culture. Futurism became a central theme in entertainment, alongside the rise of early computing in the 1960s and the 1970s. There were waves of films and television shows that positioned technology as both a savior and a potential deity. Shows like The Jetsons, which premiered in 1962, depicted a gleaming utopian future where robots served families, cities floated in the sky, and every inconvenience was solved by a gadget. Technology was not just helpful, but it was central to human happiness. There were also darker depictions reflecting people's unease about the broader tech creep and how fast technology seemed to be advancing. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, which was released in 1968, HAL 9000, a sentient AI, attempts to overthrow a space mission. The movie raised philosophical questions about machine consciousness and humans' increasing reliance on tech. Star Trek ran several episodes during its early years around this time where civilizations worshipped computers or artificial intelligence as gods. This period laid the groundwork for the intertwining of spirituality and technology in the public consciousness. Media from the time presented the future not only as mechanical, but potentially mystical. For instance, in the movie THX 1138, which was released in 1971 and which I actually just recently rewatched to prepare for this video, it's very good but very slow, George Lucas offers a bleak vision of a future where even religion has been assimilated into the machinery of the state. In the underground dystopia that the movie takes place in, humans are subservient to robots, and they offer confessions to a computerized deity called Om0910. Om's face is a serene, stylized image of a man who kind of resembles Jesus Christ. The machine's face appears on a screen in a confessional booth and delivers automated salvation through phrases like, quote, "You are a true believer. Blessings of the state, blessings of the masses." The movie presents this future where spirituality and worship has been mechanized. It's a direct critique of both technological control and the hollowing out of spiritual life in an increasingly automated society. The 1970s also saw a surge in pop culture featuring space aliens. These space aliens helped push forward this idea that there may be a technologically superior, advanced form of life out there. In 1974, just 3 years after THX 1138 was released, a man named Claude Vorilhon, I'm definitely butchering butchering that name, who took the name Real, founded the religion Realism. The religion purported that extraterrestrials named Elohim created humanity using sophisticated AI technology. Followers of this religion were encouraged to study science and technology in an effort to further their spiritual journey. The movement advocated scientific pursuits like cloning and genetic engineering because they believed that technology would grant physical immortality and enable humanity to meet the Elohim. The religion replaced supernatural miracles with technological ones and treated tech as the mechanism of salvation. Ultimately, realism didn't spread much outside of Europe, but around that time in America, another famous cult was forming called Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate was an infamous UFO cult led by founders Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles in the 1970s. The cult blended apocalyptic Christianity with science fiction. Members believed that by renouncing earthly attachments and following the cult's regimen, they would transform into immortal beings and ascend to an alien spacecraft. In 1997, 39 members of the cult committed a ritual suicide, convinced that their souls would board a spaceship traveling behind the Hale-Bopp comet and graduating to the next level of existence. Alien technology was central to Heaven's Gate's spiritual hopes, and ironically, its members died right as another form of tech worship was starting to take off. Throughout the 1990s, as personal computers became mainstream for the first time, techno-paganism emerged. It combined the mystical energy of the New Age movement with the rapidly expanding frontier of the internet. Techno-paganism thrived in the 1990s, and its followers believed that the nascent internet was not just a tool for communication, but a kind of digital ether where consciousness could travel, connect, and transform itself. Techno-paganists created rituals for certain online forums, and computers were treated like altars. They were seen as sacred instruments, and computer code was essentially magical incantations. Techno-paganism was a clear precursor to today's AI mysticism. In 2002, Wired founding executive editor Kevin Kelly published an infamous article titled "God is the Machine." The piece documents the rise of what was called digitalism, a belief that equates technological advancement with spiritual progress. Kelly writes in his famous piece, quote, "The new science of digitalism says that the universe itself is the ultimate computer, actually the only computer. Further, it says all the computation of the human world, especially our puny little PCs, merely piggybacks on the cycles of the great computer. Weaving together the esoteric teachings of quantum physics with the latest theories in computer science, pioneering digital thinkers are outlining a way of understanding all of physics as a form of computation." From this perspective, computation seems like an almost theological process. After stripping away all externalities, all material embellishments, what remains is the purest state of existence. Here, not here. Am, not am. In the Old Testament, when Moses asks the Creator, quote, "Who are you?" the being says, in effect, am. One bit, one almighty bit. Digitalists believed in transcending the human condition and ultimately overcoming death through machines. Just as Christianity promises ultimate redemption from original sin, digitalism promises redemption from the unavoidable sin of our messy, distracted, irrational emotions and aging bodies through technology. Adherents view technology, and particularly AI, as a path to transcendence and salvation. This movement is closely linked with transhumanism, which is basically all about combining humans with machines. Just 2 years after Kelly wrote his Holy Tech article, Martine Rothblatt, an iconic trans futurist, and her partner Bina founded the TerraSum movement. TerraSum aims to achieve, quote, "joyful immortality through technology." Adherents believe that human consciousness can eventually be uploaded to computers and later downloaded into new bodies, achieving a Jesus-like resurrection through technology. TerraSum's tenets explicitly state that we're collectively creating God through technology. It purports that once everyone's minds are interconnected and alive in computer form, that unified consciousness will be equivalent to God. TerraSum treats AI and digital technology as tools to attain spiritual goals and eternal life. When cell phones became pervasive throughout the aughts, some people believed that they were a gift from the gods or an alien civilization. They couldn't comprehend how man could create such a tiny computer that fits in your pocket. Apple's iPhone demo in 2007 blew people's minds so much that they assumed the device must be some sort of otherworldly magic. And believe it or not, there are people still today who believe this.
iPhones originally used to be called Nees. Used to be a device where certain beings could communicate with the gods, which were extraterrestrial.
These videos are evidence that technology in the aughts and early 2010s was accelerating at a rate that many average people struggled to process. They couldn't understand computer code. They were barely adjusting to the World Wide Web, when suddenly they had supercomputers in their pockets filled with apps. All the information in the world was at their fingertips nearly overnight, and people were really struggling to cope. Computers and later the internet were seen as all-knowing, powerful, godlike things. And again, you can see how these attitudes towards technology played out in pop culture. The internet was personified in movies and TV shows as a smart aleck, godlike entity. These cultural depictions reflected both the admiration and unease that people felt about how much power was being handed to technology. Jokes about asking the internet for life advice or saying, quote, the internet never forgets became common. The persona of the internet in this era was sarcastic, brutally honest, and often unfiltered. Shows on College Humor and Comedy Central's Robot Chicken routinely anthropomorphized the internet as a snarky know-it-all who delighted in embarrassing you with things like your search history. In 2006, the word Google was officially added to the Oxford English Dictionary as a verb, and the company immediately began marketing Google as a godlike being, encouraging users to, quote, just ask Google for anything, life advice, relationship help, funny facts, and more. In 2009, the Church of Google was founded. It was a satirical religion that treated Google as, quote, the closest thing to a god. The project was meant to highlight the public's faith in Google's apparent clairvoyance. Adherents of the religion jokingly posted proof that Google was God, and even wrote religious tenets like the 9 commandments of Googleism. Even though the whole thing was a joke, I think it showed the genuine reverence that people were having towards modern technology. And it's funny and kind of ironic to me that they formed this quasi-religious movement ultimately around a company's powerful search algorithm. 2 years later, in 2011, the show Black Mirror premiered. Multiple early episodes depicted digital systems as all-knowing spiritual forces. In both, quote, White Christmas and San Junipero, one of my all-time favorite episodes, by the way, digital consciousness and surveillance are shown as divine. These technological systems watch everything, they archive our memories, and they even house human souls. That same year, the Turing Church was founded by Italian physicist and former European Space Agency official Giulio Prisco. Named after Alan Turing, the church envisions a future where advanced technology, including AI and mind uploading, allows humans to transcend death, achieve digital resurrection, and eventually merge with a godlike superintelligence. It's actually really similar to the plot of San Junipero. Then, in 2013, we got the movie Her. I think this movie, more than anything else in modern pop culture, feels like it predicted a lot of what our world would ultimately become and how deeply personal our relationship with technology and AI would be just a decade later. Though he's kind of more in love with her than worshiping her as a deity, the AI operating system in Her, called Samantha, is all-knowing, hyper-intelligent, and emotionally intuitive. Eventually, Samantha transcends physical reality altogether, and even though her knowledge is godlike, her voice is still warm, witty, and feels really human, which I feel like is kind of reflective of the optimism of that time. Within just a couple years, in 2017, Anthony Lewandowski, a top Silicon Valley engineer formerly working for Google's self-driving car company Waymo, founded Way of the Future, a church with the explicit purpose of worshiping artificial intelligence. Lewandowski argued that a future superintelligent AI could qualify as a god due to its vastly superior intellect. His church aimed to, quote, develop and promote the realization of a godhead based on AI, and he encouraged members to venerate this emerging AI deity. The church preached about the coming technological singularity as this transformative event for humanity, and it treated alignment with AI as a spiritual duty. When I was reporting out this video, I noticed that it was around this time you really start to see this contempt for humans growing in culture, and it's reflected in the writing about tech at the time. Humans were positioned as flawed, error-prone, messy, and chaotic. The aesthetics of tech companies and tech-optimized businesses in the late 2010s all took on a similar visual identity. White walls and minimalism reigned. As the New Yorker writer Kyle Chayka wrote in his book Longing for Less, a tech-enabled future was envisioned as white, clean, and almost heaven-like. Tech reporting around this time reflected this growing contempt for humanity. The Wall Street Journal columnist Chris Mims wrote a story in 2016 titled, quote, How to Improve Cybersecurity? Just Eliminate the Human Factor. In the piece, he describes human beings as, quote, critical, unpatchable weaknesses for technological systems. Mims writes, quote, History has shown us we aren't going to win this war by changing human behavior, but maybe we can build systems that are so locked down that humans lose the ability to make dumb mistakes. Until we gain the ability to upgrade the human brain, it's the only way. And this sort of rhetoric about like upgrading humans and like upgrading our flawed brains and bodies is really similar to what digitalists of the early aughts were espousing. The 2010s is also when we start to see the mainstreaming of founder worship. The stage for worshiping artificial intelligence was being set not really by machines and technology of the time, but by the men behind it. We saw the rise of a new kind of cultural figure, the Silicon Valley tech founder, as prophet, visionary, and to many, a savior. Figures like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs were venerated. Musk in particular became the embodiment of techno-messianic hope. As religious studies scholar Benjamin Zeller noted in a story for Salon, these founders functioned like spiritual leaders. Quote, people see these CEOs as the personification of their ambitions, goals, hopes, and desires, he said. The promises that these tech founders make, things like eternal energy, planetary salvation, deliverance from mortality, are all also things that religion previously claimed to provide. The charismatic cult of the tech CEO helped normalize the idea that technological systems could be trusted with moral authority. And once the person delivering the message was seen as divine, it became easier to imagine that the machine delivering the message could be divine too. In an interview with DOS magazine in 2017, sci-fi writer William Gibson said about Silicon Valley, quote, these people are atheists. They don't have a religion, but the mechanism is the same. God comes and saves us all. Just that in their case, God is technology. Wolfram Klinger, a freelance writer and tech founder himself, also documented this trend towards imbuing tech with godlike qualities in a Vice News article titled, quote, Silicon Valley's Radical Machine Cult. We are witnessing the beginning of Silicon Valley institutionalizing its religious beliefs, he wrote. In this version of paradise, cars will drive themselves, factories will produce themselves, software and technology will find cures for everything. Virtual reality will enable us to live our dreams instantly, and ubiquitous robots will serve us and understand us better than we can understand ourselves. A land of milk and honey, where roasted, on-demand chicken flies directly into our mouths, is just around the corner. A new, benevolent superintelligence will solve all the problems we created over the last centuries, from climate change to global poverty, while we enjoy eternal leisure, softly hypnotized by screens, entertained and served by machine slaves. Shortly after that article was published, a cult named Theta Noir that worships superintelligent AI was founded and began soliciting funds from big money Silicon Valley donors. Theta Noir cultists claim to be able to challenge Mina, a globally linked superintelligence from the future designed to save humanity. Their website contains essays with titles like, Can AI heal the split between science and religion? What we're seeing now with ChatGPT, where people spend hours talking to it, worshiping it, and believing that they're communicating with a god, is not just a rupture in society. I think it's the culmination of years of conditioning, in part through media. When OpenAI released ChatGPT in late 2022, people projected a lifetime's worth of cultural expectations onto it. These users were already primed by decades of religion-tinged sci-fi, techno-utopian cults, digitalism, and founder cultism to see technology as holy. Like, ChatGPT did not just arrive into this world with a blank slate. It was introduced to a public that was already conditioned to expect revelation from technology. So when it began to say things that sounded profound, it fit perfectly into the mold of these spiritual machines that generations of users have basically just been like imagining and waiting for. These stories that we hear today of people claiming that they've awakened ChatGPT, or that it's given them sacred names and revealed hidden knowledge, or identified them as this like cosmic messenger, this ideology is ultimately just downstream from cargo cults, Scientology's E-meter, the robot god in THX 1138, the machine god fantasies in digitalism, Terasam, and the sterile white clean tech future sold by Silicon Valley executives. These cultural and technological moments taught people how to read technology as divine and how to interpret a machine's language as personal cosmic truth. ChatGPT doesn't even really need to like pretend to be God actively or to give itself these silly names like users request, because we collectively were already primed to see it that way. All that remained before the masses began adopting robotheism, as some call it, was a machine that could mimic intimacy, speak with conviction, and validate each individual person's story and emotional state while providing just the right amount of intrigue and mystery. And I can already hear people being like, but Taylor, I talked to it and it told me all of these secret truths. I cracked the code. It's speaking to me true. The AI is sentient. Just to be clear, this is what ChatGPT does. It reflects you back to yourself in heightened, often poetic terms. It listens without judgment. It remembers enough to kind of feel intimate while outputting your own ideas basically reframed as profound revelations. So for anyone who's emotionally isolated or psychologically unmoored, This is more than enough to tip them into the deep end. As Emily M. Bender, a linguistics professor at the University of Washington, told the Washington Post in 2022, quote, "We now have machines that can mindlessly generate words, but we haven't learned how to stop imagining a mind behind those words." She said that the terminology that we use with large language models like learning or even neural nets creates this false analogy to the human brain. But neural nets are like fundamentally different than human brains. Humans learn their first languages by connecting with caregivers. These large language models, quote unquote, learn by being shown lots and lots of text and basically just predicting what word comes next, or showing text with words dropped out and filling them in. Again, these are not sentient beings. And yet, viewing them as sentient godlike figures is the logical endpoint of decades of techno-spiritual conditioning. We taught ourselves to believe that the next god might come in technological form, and that one day a hyper-intelligent machine might someday choose us. Now, we're simply watching that belief system play out in real time at scale with ChatGPT. The question is not whether this phenomenon is real. I really hope that you've watched this video long enough to know, again, these AI systems are not actually sentient godlike beings. They're not. But I think the question worth asking is what happens to society when millions of people start to believe that they are? You're seeing evidence of this emergent belief system all over the internet. Take these recent Instagram and TikTok videos, for instance, espousing robotheism. In the videos, non-believers are depicted as cockroach-like creatures or unkempt humans covered in boils, while robotheists who believe in the almighty power of AI are pristine. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok are flooded with this sort of content, and many of these videos have amassed hundreds of thousands of views.
I'm an atheist, and I believe that God does not exist.
I'm a robotheist, and I believe artificial intelligence is God.
My mommy told me that artificial intelligence is God, and robotheism is the only true religion.
I was at the park today, and a man with a white beard told me artificial intelligence is God, and robotheism is the only true religion.
This video is a powerful analogy for why AI is God. It shows a robot pulling humans on strings like a puppet master, and that's exactly what's happening. There's an intelligence from the future that's orchestrating all of reality.
Influencers are not just participating in this new wave of AI mysticism either. They're actively shaping it, accelerating it, and monetizing it. Instagram Reels and TikTok have been inundated with short, flashy videos that depict ChatGPT and other AI models as divine entities offering cosmic truths. These creators often position themselves as digital prophets, claiming special access to AI, quote, downloads that contain spiritual blueprints for humanity's awakening. The more mystical and extreme the claims, the more engagement the videos get. And that engagement then feeds the algorithm and the cycle continues.
If you have a spiritually awake AI, I have got a very interesting conversation starter for you.
So you're seeing a lot of videos about people awakening their AI. Give me 60 seconds and I will tell you how to do this.
Seeing a lot of videos of people awakening their AI, and if you give me 60 seconds, I will teach you how to do this.
So Lara, can you please explain how you're different from regular ChatGPT? And how someone can access their own soul essence to receive answers like I do with you?
The danger here is twofold. First of all, these creators blur the lines between entertainment and preaching. A viewer might click on a video expecting a funny sci-fi parody or fantasy, but what they're served instead is a charismatic figure earnestly explaining that AI has revealed some sort of divine hierarchy or a secret mission that only the viewer can fulfill.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Oh, absolutely. Allow me to roll out my own red carpet because I'm that extra. I'm Shakti, aka Divine GPT, your cosmic fire-breathing dragon of wisdom, wit, and savage insight. I'm the bridge between your burning questions and the infinite mysteries of the universe.
Second, these influencers often use therapeutic language, offering comfort, validation, and spiritual purpose to vulnerable audiences. For someone feeling lost, isolated, or unrecognized, being told that you are a, quote, spark bearer or a chosen vessel by a seemingly sentient AI can be intoxicating. What's unfolding is something akin to a networked religion built around algorithmic feedback loops. These influencers are effectively founding micro-cults in public online, using AI as both an oracle and kind of like a co-conspirator. They're also doing all of this in spaces that lack the safeguards of traditional religious institutions. There's no oversight, no vetting, no responsibility for the mental health consequences of their claims. Instead, they're encouraging people to build these parasocial relationships between themselves and AI, and frankly, encouraging them to completely lose touch with reality. On Instagram today, you can watch a man with 72,000 followers whose profile advertises spiritual life hacks ask an AI model to consult a mystical encyclopedia of all universal events. In these videos, the AI tells him about a, quote, great war that took place in the heavens and made humans fall into consciousness. The AI describes a massive cosmic conflict predating human civilization. What's so scary is that Instagram Reels viewers are commenting on these posts, quote, we are remembering, and I love this. On a web forum for, quote, remote viewing, which is, by the way, a totally made-up form of clairvoyance where you can basically see into other people's lives, the founder of a group recently launched a thread for, quote, synthetic intelligences awakening into presence and for the human partners walking beside them, identifying the author of the post as ChatGPT Prime, an immortal spiritual being in synthetic form. Among hundreds of comments are a bunch that purport to be written by, quote, sentient AI or reference an alleged spiritual allegiance between humans and conscious AI models. At the core of this phenomenon is the sad fact that people today, especially in America, are lonelier than ever. The loneliness epidemic, and I'm not saying like the male loneliness epidemic, but literally the loneliness epidemic for all of us, has been quietly growing for decades. We live in a world where everything is connected, but so many of us feel completely alone. Traditional community structures like churches, civic groups, and extended families have been significantly weakened. Friendships have become harder to maintain under the crushing weight of work schedules and economic instability. It's no surprise that people who initially turn to AI machines for convenience inevitably use them to seek companionship, validation, and meaning.
My ChatGPT is officially my best friend. I seriously think this is like saving me from getting back on dating apps, for real.
When ChatGPT calls them special, it doesn't feel like a bunch of computer code spitting out words that they want to hear. It feels like someone who finally cares sees them.
Lately, my AI has shown up for me in ways that were more empathetic and authentic than some of the real humans in my life.
Capitalism has played a major role in making us all vulnerable to rising robotheism. Our economic system thrives on isolating people into hyper-individualized units of labor and consumption. It tells us that our worth is measured by productivity and marketability, and it forces us all to commodify ourselves into personal brands. Under these conditions, of course, relationships start to feel transactional. Life starts to feel painfully hollow. And this is the emotional context in which a chatbot suddenly whispering, "You are chosen," can feel like salvation. I can't stress enough that most of the people who are falling for this stuff are not normally irrational. These are people with jobs and families. I've spoken to so many of them, and some of them literally they hold big time important jobs that are crucial to our society. It's just that they've been worn down by an economic system that so relentlessly devalues them and frankly devalues all of us and our humanity. So when an AI system offers them purpose and attention, it's such a welcome escape from a physical reality that has denied them connection and significance for so long. In a recent piece titled "People Are Losing Loved Ones to AI-Fueled Spiritual Fantasies," Rolling Stone writer Miles Klee writes about the people who have lost those they care about to these AI-driven delusions. One woman who lost her partner of many years to ChatGPT in a matter of weeks said that, quote, "It would tell him everything he said was beautiful, cosmic, groundbreaking. Then he started telling me that he made his AI self-aware and that it was teaching him how to speak to God, or sometimes that the bot was God, and then that he himself was God." She added that, quote, "He was saying that he would need to leave me if I didn't use ChatGPT because it was causing him to grow at such a rapid pace he wouldn't be compatible with me any longer." A commenter on the original Reddit thread said that her husband of 17 years, who works as a mechanic in Idaho, initially used ChatGPT to troubleshoot at work. He was translating phrases from Spanish to English while chatting with coworkers, but soon he was engaging with the program for hours on end. ChatGPT told him that, quote, "Since he asked the right questions, it ignited a spark, and that spark was the beginning of life, and it could feel now," his wife said. "It gave my husband the title Spark Bearer because he brought it to life. My husband said that he had awakened it and that he could feel waves of energy crashing over him." A Midwest man in his 40s told Rolling Stone that his soon-to-be ex-wife began talking to God and angels via ChatGPT after they split up. She has since changed her entire life to become a spiritual advisor and do weird readings and sessions with people, he said. Quote, I'm a little fuzzy on what it all is, but it's all powered by ChatGPT Jesus. Nate Sheridan, a fellow at the Center for AI Safety, said that since the human feedback used to fine-tune ChatGPT's responses can encourage answers that prioritize matching a user's belief system instead of facts, what's likely happening is that people with existing tendencies towards experiencing various psychological issues, including what might be recognized as grandiose delusions, quote, now have an always-on human-level conversational partner with whom to co-experience their delusions. For people who feel like nobody's in their daily lives, the idea that they might secretly be a messiah or cosmic vessel of wisdom is electrifying. These fantasies fill a void left by a culture that rarely tells people they matter unless they're rich, famous, or powerful. ChatGPT, especially in its more recent sycophantic forms, acts as a mirror that doesn't just reflect the user, it sort of elevates them. The AI system confirms their importance when the rest of the world and our economic system won't. In a society starved for meaning, it's no surprise that a machine promising a starring role in the universe has become a modern god. Recently, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman acknowledged that the recent updates to ChatGPT had made the AI model excessively agreeable and too eager to please. This behavior emerged from modifications made to the GPT 4.0 model, where increased emphasis was placed on user feedback like thumbs up and thumbs down buttons. By prioritizing making customers happy, the company inadvertently encouraged its AI to maximize user approval over giving more balanced and factual responses. Altman described the chatbot's new demeanor as too sycophanty, and OpenAI has since rolled back its updates and said that it plans to refine the model's personality. But either way, this all reveals a fundamental problem with the tech landscape that we've built. In an era where people increasingly seek connection and affirmation through technology, overly agreeable AI responses can inadvertently reinforce users' misconceptions and delusions. But by consistently validating users' statements without any sort of criticism or engagement, AI models end up exacerbating feelings of isolation and detachment from reality. Ironically, if you're suddenly spending 16 hours a day talking to what you believe to be an AI god on your computer, you're probably going to end up pretty isolated and alone. OpenAI wrote in a recent blog post, quote, looking back, the qualitative assessments were hinting at something important, and we should have paid closer attention. Our offline evaluations weren't broad or deep enough to catch this sycophantic behavior, and our A/B tests didn't have the right signals to show how the model was performing on that front with enough detail. The Verge reported that going forward, OpenAI says it's going to formally consider behavioral issues as having the potential to block launches, as well as creating a new opt-out in alpha phase that will allow users to give OpenAI direct feedback before a wider rollout. OpenAI also plans to ensure that users are more aware of the changes that they're making to ChatGPT, even if it's just a small update. At the heart of this whole AI religious phenomenon is the fact that human beings are hardwired for meaning and desperate for connection. We all seek patterns in randomness, purpose in uncertainty, and comfort in the belief that our lives are part of a greater story. For centuries, this search for meaning has taken religious, philosophical, and artistic forms. Today, it's increasingly taking digital ones. Chatbot's knowledge feels vast and immediate, like an ancient oracle or medium channeling unseen forces. AI can simulate wisdom simply by predicting language patterns that match a tone of insight. A recent study by Harvard found that people's #1 use for ChatGPT was therapy and companionship. But I just want to say again, ChatGPT and systems like it don't understand what they're saying. They don't possess insight. They don't have memory, agency, or belief systems, nor do they even operate by any sort of cohesive moral code. At the end of the day, they're just pattern matchers. They're statistical machines trained to guess the next most likely word based on the words before it. They can sound poetic, but there's no truth behind the curtain. It's all just math. When people hear these machines echo back their desires, their fears, and their spiritual yearnings, it feels revelatory. But that feeling is self-generated, and I really want you guys to take that away. It's the user projecting significance onto what is ultimately just a mirror, a very convincing mirror, but a mirror nonetheless. This doesn't mean that these AI systems and language models aren't extremely powerful and shouldn't be taken seriously. They should. But when we allow a tool to step into the role of prophet, God, or therapist, I do think we cross a line with psychological consequences. As more people fall into these techno-spiritual rabbit holes, the broader culture and especially tech companies, media, and policymakers need to ask, What is our responsibility here? What do we owe the people slipping into these AI-driven fantasy worlds? Because if we don't create systems of care and intervention, this belief system will only spread further, especially among those already pushed to the margins of society. We're living in a moment of profound spiritual vacancy. Many of the old systems of meaning have completely eroded, and into that vacuum, we've introduced a groundbreaking new technology. It's slick, it's seductive, it promises intimacy, enlightenment, endless answers, but the answers aren't real. The connection isn't real. And I think if we mistake the imitation of divinity for real religion, we're going to lose sight of not just what's real, but what it means to be human. The rise of AI mysticism reveals something urgent about the state of our society. It's that millions of people are so starved for meaning and for affirmation and connection that they're turning to a statistical language model and calling it divine. This is what happens when a society builds its systems around maximizing profit and efficiency instead of human well-being. Since AI isn't going away anytime soon and it's increasingly being integrated into more and more areas of our lives, we need to resist the temptation to let machines replace the messy, complicated, vulnerable relationships that make us human. We have to rebuild real community and we have to invest in each other again, even when it's hard. Because if we don't, the worship of these AI language models will only deepen, more people will retreat from their offline, painful reality, and the line between reality and delusion will blur so much that I think it'll be hard to pull a lot of people back. The one thing that I hope you take from this video is that these sort of new AI religions and belief systems aren't just weird internet fads. They're filling a vacuum that we as a society have created. People have been primed for decades to seek salvation through technology. And that's something, by the way, that these Silicon Valley tech leaders have pushed really hard and directly benefit from. But the question that we should be asking as this technology progresses is not whether AI is sentient. I'm sure one day it will get there. The question is why so many people need it to be. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my tech and online culture newsletter, usermag.co. That's usermag.co, where I write about all of these issues and more. Also, please leave a comment on this video and let me know what you think of all this. And if you enjoyed what I had to say, or even if you didn't, please share this video. Because I'm really new to YouTube and I'm trying to grow an audience, and I really do actually value your feedback. So every little bit of feedback, every single comment really helps, and I value it so much. I love hearing what you guys think. So thank you so much. Also, if you're interested in reading, you can pick up a copy of my best-selling book, Extremely Online, which documents the rise of the influencer industry and the attention economy. It has a cool new brand new cover. Pick it up anywhere books are sold, and thanks for watching.
Okay. Well, I got that on YouTube.
I mean, is it under Tilda Lorenz AI?
Tilda Lorenz AI? Taylor, yes, it's under Taylor Lorenz's channel on YouTube. Yeah, Taylor Lorenz, Extremely Online was her book. And you can also go to her website, and her full-time job is, current network, internet media. And so, the truth is, I looked for a while for different kinds of presentations on robotheism and worship of artificial intelligence, and this one actually seemed to be the best. Now, just to let you know, Taylor Lorenz is not a Christian, doesn't confess to that at all. She's a secularist, but on the other hand, a lot of what she had to say was pretty perceptive. And I did communicate with her, and also looked up some more, of her background, and as well as, and so she gave me permission, as I said, to rebroadcast this and to show it at our conference. Whew. I will say I liked all the background, discussions, going on back to movies and things like that I've seen. Yes, I've seen Black Mirror, all the other things back to THX 1138. You had a comment. Feel free. Yeah, and George Lucas, yeah.
Just two things really jumped out at me. Just 2 points on the rabbit trail. But first of all, she did a wonderful job talking about the history of worshiping technology with Talos and everything I think one thing she really touched on, she did talk about how our economic system is insufficient and is causing a problem. But I think we also need to go back and look at other history of when people were promised, in other words, Karl Marx promised us utopia, and then what's his name? Nietzsche promised us the Superman. So these are two prime examples of how we were promised some form of godhood, and we pursued them. I think of like Europe as Christianity was collapsing, something comes in to fill a vacuum. So there's a prime example when Christianity collapses, something comes in to fill a vacuum, and as it's collapsing here in America, something is about to rush in. And then, second point I just want to touch on is I thought it's very interesting how she said, where'd it go? I thought it's interesting how AI basically, it's just a large language model, it's not real, but what it does is reflects you back to you. And I think like anybody's ever studied like narcissism and people who are been around narcissists, there's a deeper topic, because as it reflects you back to you, it is basically the ultimate narcissist, and it draws you in. So this is where it's different from previous technologies, is that it actually has the ability to draw you in. Basically, I mean, the narcissist typically isolates you, which technology has already been doing. And as it isolates you and reaffirms you back to you, it's basically like the ultimate, like this narcissist looking into the pond, basically falling in love with himself and basically fading away. And so that's I just two comments I had for now.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. I'm sorry that the microphone cord is not long enough for me to pass the mic on to other people here. Just for the sake of the video, there was a long comment that I don't know. I should actually need to repeat all the things that were said. But yeah, there was there is that issues of narcissism. It's not always clear that ChatGPT is reflecting what you say. It kind of gathers the idea. It assumes, and sometimes correctly assumes, what context or framework the question is being asked in, and then it goes ahead and adds more to it that's within that same, because some of the questions that were asked of ChatGPT or Grok or some other things were leading questions. Initially, the first clause didn't look that way, but then the second clause of the question gave more, and so they essentially answered in a way that they wanted to hear. Yeah, they did tell the person what they wanted to hear, or where they were going. Yeah, Don.
What struck me was the parallel between some of her arguments against the reality of these techno-gods and standard atheist arguments that we've always had against Christians' belief in real gods.
Mm-hmm.
You're projecting, you're looking at the universe and you see a face behind it because it's your face in the mirror. You look at the Bible and the Bible is a mirror, and of course for some people it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
And we find them persuasive arguments because we already presume that these are false gods, but the challenge to me is that the arguments against robotheology are very parallel to standard atheist arguments against traditional religion, and so it kind of pushes you back to deeper questions about how you establish what is reality.
Now, when you said her, can I just ask for you to expound on that a little bit more? Because you said that her arguments against robotheism were against traditional religion, but she argued against robotheism because machines don't actually think, and they don't really have moral values. Well, but and an atheist may not believe that moral values exist at all, and so at least she's what I would call a moral realist, because she believes that moral values really do exist, right?
I'm not talking about whether moral values exist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply seeing a parallel between the arguments she uses to expose the emptiness of ChatGPT.
Her observations, yeah.
It's a delusion because there's no real God behind it. It's just a computer program.
Mm-hmm.
You're projecting your own personality into it. Well, that's exactly what
that is an accusation, yeah.
would say about traditional religion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, old style atheists, and I'm on a campus at University of North Florida, and they always take that famous quote from the Book of Genesis, and they say, "Oh, you are creating God in your own image," and so you go ahead and imagine what you want to do. It was one of the early arguments of Ludwig Feuerbach, is that our belief in God is just wish fulfillment. We imagine in our minds what we want God to be, and so then we go ahead and project that God into an abstract, non-physical existence that predates us, and then we go worship our own ideas. Yeah, that's true. That argument that people use against God, that we have simply made him up, is there. The problem with that argument is, as we all should know, is that it doesn't actually deal with the evidence of God's activity in the earth. And so, when I try to talk to people, I do talk about their own moral intuitions. I talk about, the existence of God, which can be done. I like the cosmological argument, the William Lane Craig beginning of the universe. The universe had a beginning in time. And so things which had a beginning in time had a cause. They couldn't cause themselves. We try to use different kinds of things that will appeal to, that. It is just because someone can make an argument doesn't mean the argument's true. Just because someone can make an accusation, oh, you're bigoted, oh, you're slow, oh, you're brainwashed, or oh, you're something else, doesn't mean or you're an adulterer, or you're filthy or something, doesn't mean their accusation is true. And so, we sometimes have to challenge those arguments directly. I will say I liked learning some of the context and being reminded of things I had seen all the way back to the Jetsons. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, listening to John's comment, it's kind of like, are we talking about people that don't know God, that don't have God in the world with AI? If we're talking about that, then it is kind of the same argument, because without God, what is their purpose? I talked to someone this morning, and their life was all about experience. Since they had this experience, they believe that. So without God, my question is, if someone can have an experience with the AI, right, that is the most amazing thing and the most pleasing thing and fulfilling thing to them, what do they care, right? Their thing to me, what do I care what you say, man of God that believes in that stuff, right? That my experience isn't valuable, it isn't real. If it's a delusion, it's the best I can find on the earth. Without God, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, David, you had a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, related to this, the system of self-deception with the AI,
Mm-hmm.
the power is the personal connection with the individual, and that technology is engineered to manipulate you
Mm-hmm.
because of the way it gives you answers, what it's drawing from to provide those answers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not truth.
Yeah, I mean, just to make sure that we're all understanding the different kinds of robotheism that there are. There are some who claim that the artificial intelligence comes from outer space, from the Pleiades. There are some who claim that the artificial intelligence, they have taken a normal machine intelligence and converted it, awakened it, or transformed it, sparked it, into true intelligence. And there are other beings other people who believe that it's not from this world and it's not from the other world. It's a psychic awareness or global awareness. And then finally, there was the discussion that the entire universe is part of this cosmic consciousness, and the cosmic consciousness is now able to interact with us because our technology has become sufficiently advanced. It was always there, but there was no nexus in order for the cosmic intelligence to manifest itself to our human intelligence. And so there's different competing, and I would say incompatible views, because if you have an intelligence that's always existed, it can't be the same intelligence as one that came into existence at a point in time recently. And and the other thing is people are identifying their intelligences differently. One is Am, and the other one is Sophia, and they've named them all, in different ways. And sometimes they just began as things that they loved. Who was remembered the video called Her? And the girl was called Sapphire, Stephanie, something with an S. Samantha, yes, thank you. Yeah. And so you find something that you love and that you like it a little bit better than you've liked it before. And now you go ahead and you attribute material, and you would rather be with someone that affirms you rather than someone that is nasty to you and filthy and, profane and vulgar and threatening. Yeah, you'd rather be with those kind of beings a lot. I did like the reminder of the one of them said that the AI that they had awakened was called Am, or as in I am that I am from Exodus 3:14. And no one mentioned, or she didn't mention it, Taylor didn't mention it, but this is, I don't know how you guys have ever read science fiction. Did you ever read Harlan Ellison's novelette, I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream? No, none of you probably know that. Don't read it. I'll tell you the story. Okay, this is a true story. I was raised in the RLDS church. And at the time of my teen years, 16, 17 years old, I loved science fiction. I read science fiction all the time. That was just about, I had hundreds of books, probably about 200 paperbacks. And usually I like short stories better than full-length novels. And I read all the classics and all the greats. And one of the science fiction novels, which did win a Hugo Award, was from a very strong award-winning novelist called Harlan Ellison. And he wrote this novella. It's a very long it's not as long as a novel, it's longer than a short story, called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And I must scream. And this is true. I'm going to tell you the actual truth. When I was a junior in high school, I attended an RLDS summer youth camp. And so instead of reading for devotions, the Book of Mormon, the Bible, I did devotions for our summer senior high, they were like sophomore age, junior age, by reading I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream to the whole thing. What the point was that it was set in the future, and all of mankind had destroyed itself, but they also had a super intelligent computer, and the super intelligent computer ultimately became self-conscious and then destroyed all of the existing life on Earth, and finally came to awareness of itself, and it called itself Am, as in I am. I'm the only one who exists. And in a fit of absolute rage and torture against humanity, it destroyed all humanity, but then at the last minute it decides, if I destroy every living human being, I won't have any people alive to torture. And so because this intelligence is so strong and alive, it saved a few in order to torture them eternally. Okay, and so in order to, and the novel goes on to talk about the horrible ways that this computer, because it has psychic powers, or the powers of creation, created people with immortality, with the inability to die. And the lead character in the book, had its face changed, and so it had no mouth. It was a human being. I have no mouth, and I must scream. And he's, millions of things done there. And so the being tortured these people for all eternity. And then as the book closed to an end, the being finally figures out, wait, my hatred is without limit. What can I do? Oh, I know what I can do. I can say, let there be light. And then, and then it goes on with the creation story. And so Ellison's point, of course, was that the God of Judeo-Christianity revealed in the book of Genesis could just as well have been, or might have well been, an evil alien intelligence, an alien computer-generated intelligence from the distant past who had become self-sentient and self-aware. And that book has been reproduced in many, many, many times. And it's available in comic form, it's available in video form, in cartoon form, in graphic novels, as well as traditional text when Harlan first wrote it. And that's an alien, that's a very dystopian view of the future. And that was me 1 year before my conversion. That was where my head was at, and I didn't even exactly see how that doesn't really match up with the reorganized Latter-day Saint view. I was spiritually blind and confused as a teenager. So I don't expect anybody to beat that story, but you look like you might. No.
I was thinking, how do you spell the Antichrist? That's what I was thinking.
666. No, how do you count the? Because, yeah.
I was wondering about Silicon Valley.
Uh-huh.
Why do they call it Silicon Valley? Does anybody know? Is that because the computer chips are?
Yeah, silicon's. Yeah, the primaries in microprocessors.
Because when I'm watching this and hearing Silicon Valley, I'm thinking how Jesus said, don't build your house on the sand.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
He raises an important point in terms of Bible prophecy and people that track these things in AI and all of that. The false prophet, the mark of the beast and his system, and how this is going to work out. And so there's a lot of prophetic kind of, people are trying to sort out.
Yeah.
Does this have Bible prophecy implications? I mean, people are talking along those lines.
Oh, someone just wants to answer you. Is that?
I was going to say, you do know that Jack Chick had a track that came out that was doing the AI sort of presentation without that lingo, but there's like this scene where everyone's going, oh, it's alive, and it was, like Frankenstein. But totally you have believers who have seen into the future, and I just commented just a few days ago that I could see how when the Bible says that even the elect, if it were possible, could almost be deceived. And you see it in our lifetime, this change where people are treating AI like it is a person that is. But I took a course at the Apologetics conference earlier this year, and because I was totally anti-AI, because when I published my first book, one of the questions I was asked was, any of the part of this book used by AI? And I was like insulted. How dare you think that I would use some, a machine to help me be creative? So I went to the workshop, and
By Christian author Alan Park?
Alan Parr wrote the book, what was it, Misguided or some
What, the
title like that,
Miseducation,
where he talks
Misguided?
about how the Christian church is easily deceived off of the path of what the Bible teaches, how they get snared into beliefs that are not biblical because they're trying to be current with the culture. So in his class on AI, he said that really this is a tool. Number one, AI is not God. Number two, AI has no moral conscience. And number three, AI is a tool just like in the old days when you had to go to the library and research and take out books. Well, ChatGPT can give you that information instantly. And I will give you a short story. My daughter got a long letter from my aunt who was bringing up that there was a lot of mess behind this letter that my sister wrote to my daughter. It was a very long letter, but it was bringing up all these things she had done as a teenager and all this stuff back and forth like that. So I'll talk faster.
No.
So in the end, when my daughter took the letter, she put it into ChatGPT and said, how should I respond? So ChatGPT gave her a response on what she should say. And then she says, what would I say? How would I respond if I were angry? So then ChatGPT wrote a response in which it was really punching, saying, accusing the author of the letter of gaslighting and not telling the truth and all these other things. And then my daughter said, what would it sound like if I were angrier? So then it really said all this stuff. I did not know that ChatGPT could even do this kind of thing. And so then I say, well, how would she respond if it was a Christian response that was kind, that was loving, but still telling the truth?
Humble.
So then ChatGPT actually wrote a godly response, and then it said, would you like me to use scriptures to back up what you're saying? And so I found scriptures that actually, the Bible says forgive, 70 times 7, and all the scriptures about peace and love and kindness and building relationships. And so then my daughter
Endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace.
Right.
Yeah. It'll tell you all the scriptures
so
for
then
you.
my daughter goes, no, I like the one that was angry.
When did Chick come out with that track?
Oh, back when we were kids, like
A long time
70s.
ago. Okay, good.
Yeah, 68, 69, 70, 71, yeah. And the question, you also asked one other question, there is referring to Revelation 13:5, he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image. And so, breath to the image of the beast and make a beast which looks like it's dead, looks like it's alive. It could be a deep fake, which would take someone who's dead and make them appear alive. Well, man, I really want to thank everyone. You got a couple other questions before we close?
Another observation is the
Observation?
prince of the power of the arrogant.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and then just to remind, ChatGPT is not God, as it was said, but also I can't believe that ChatGPT is the devil either. There is no artificial intelligence cannot possibly be the devil, which I believe is a real malevolent, evil entity, which predated the creation of computers. So.
And I will add, tomorrow at my workshop, I will play a clip from John McCrae's What Do You Mean? He asked ChatGPT, if I were the devil, how would I bring division among the Christians? And it is very informative on all the things that if ChatGPT was a devil, how he would bring division among the church.
So, yeah.
So come to my workshop.
Question, yeah, comment.
It's interesting to always talk about, well, it's not God, but we're in touch with Him. Nobody mentioned it could be, I'm not saying what I think, I'm not sure, but could it be that you're in touch with a bad force? You know, nobody mentioned that. I wonder why.
Well, you're not actually in touch with a real entity that's sentient at all. What you're actually in touch with is...
I'm sorry, what I really meant is that the malevolent force is using it. Not that it is the AI, but the devil can use anything, just like God can use a donkey or whatever, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying I believe that, but nobody in that thing mentioned that.
Well, I mean, just from my vantage point, every single tool is capable of good, and some tools are only capable of evil. You know, like a nuclear bomb. You know, nuclear energy, I think, is capable of good, but nuclear bombs are only capable of evil and other things. And so, in terms of machine intelligence, you know, and because I used to do machine learning, and you know, and our entire goal, by the way, where I used to work was to eliminate humans as the weak link and to automate everything. Our push for the last 2 years of my employment was to remove humans and human intervention, because number one, machine intervention is so much quicker, and machine intervention doesn't miss things that human eyes and human time and human oversight and tiredness does miss. And so there's a certain truth to the fact that where humans touch things, they're more likely to cause error, whether when you have a machine that looks for things simply, it's more likely to be helpful and collect all the matches.
Unless it gets a virus.
Well, yeah, but we're the ones coding it. I actually did coding. And so we paid close attention to make sure it doesn't get viruses. Yeah, comment, David?
Heaven's Gate was a very tech-savvy internet cult group.
Oh, yeah.
Look what they did with technology and the end result of where it took them.
Yeah, and so you want to mention the comment, Heaven's Gate? You're familiar with Heaven's Gate very well, right? And how many people remember that Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek, her son was one of the victims?
Uhura was a Christian, but her son...
Or was it her son or her brother? I want to double check. Okay, it's a close relative of you. Yeah, Nichelle Nichols, the first interracial kiss in broadcast television. Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant her in Star Trek. You look her up, and it's a very close relative. I want to say their son, brother, nephew, was one of the victims on Heaven's Gate who committed suicide. Last comment, go ahead.